One of the great literary works of the Gothic genre is the story The Telltale Heart. Written by Edgar Allan Poe, this story plays with our minds thanks to being told by an unreliable narrator in the first person. Edgar Allan Poe was an American romantic writer, poet, critic, and journalist, considered by many to be the father of the psychological horror history. In many of his works, this man addresses issues related to mental health. In The Telltale Heart, Poe creates the story from the state of mental health of our protagonist, whose name is unknown. The phrase, "It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night," exemplifies the onset of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. But to be able to show you that this phrase is an indication of OCD, let's go back a bit to the story. First of all, at the beginning of the story, the main character admits that he has always been a very nervous person. Obsessive compulsive disorder is a type of anxiety disorder that can develop in people who have suffered from anxiety for a long period of time and haven't treated it. The story of The Telltale Heart was published in 1843, a time when diseases such as anxiety were considered characteristics of the personality of people. Thanks to the above, these diseases weren't treated. Moreover, they weren't even considered diseases. Therefore, we can deduce that indeed our main character suffered from anxiety for quite some time. He never did anything to treat it, making that anxiety transform into OCD. Secondly, the disgust the main character feels for the older man's eye is unintentional. What characterizes obsessive-compulsive disorder are unwanted fear and thought patterns that cause repetitive behavior. Throughout the story, we can see how the main character explains that what bothers him isn't the old man, but his eye. However, he really has no reason for this, because the old man has never done anything to him. It is in this part when we can see that the disgust or annoyance at the eye of the old man is something unwanted. It's thanks to the above that the main character begins to have repetitive behaviors. These are very clear in the story, since it's narrated that for a week, the main character spied on the old man with too much delicacy, which is also a characteristic of OCD. Also, he always points a flashlight at the bad eye. The actions listed above are clearly repetitive behaviors caused by unwanted disgust or annoyance. Truly, throughout the story we can see that the symptoms of OCD manifest themselves gradually. At the beginning, the main character explains that once the disgust for the old man's eye started, he couldn't get it out of his head. That is, at the beginning he only thought about the matter, which shows the beginning of OCD. Later, it's narrated that the main character began to spy on the old man, which shows a growth of OCD symptoms. On the 8th night, the main character decides to kill the old man. The above thanks to the fact that the old man opened his eyes, making the murderer see the bad eye of the man. This action is the height of manifestation of OCD symptoms. So we can indeed see the gradual manifestation of OCD throughout the story. But how is it that the above as reflected in the phrase? At the beginning, we had said that the nervousness of the main character had turned into OCD because it hadn't been treated. The phrase itself reflects how the killer went from being a nervous person to a person with symptoms of OCD. Now, the part of the sentence that says, "It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain," makes direct reference to the fact that the murderer doesn't know why it's that he began to be disgusted by the old man's eye. And that is an unintentional disgust. Our last argument can be seen as a consequence of the phrase. It's to say that thanks to the fact that the man began to think about the matter, the symptoms of OCD began to manifest gradually. To conclude, we can say that the phrase, "It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night," shows the start of an OCD. Because this reflects how the main character goes from being a nervous person to a person with OCD. In addition, it shows that the disgust or annoyance that the murderer has in the eye of the old man is involuntary. Finally, as a consequence of what was stated in this phrase, the symptoms of OCD begin to manifest gradually. We don't see the importance of taking care of our mental health until we make a mistake because of it. Mental health is one of the most recurring themes in Poe's stories. However, that topic is for another video. Thanks for watching.